Jeg regner med at dere små bortskjemte snørrvalper ikke har giddet å lese litt lokalhistorie om området her før dere kommer valsende inn på den helvetes nedtraktoren deres. Under annen verdenskrig så var Østfjorden.
When Dead Snow hit theaters in 2009, it brought with it a bold, bloody, and unexpected blend of horror and comedy that instantly carved a place for itself in cult cinema. Directed by Tommy Wirkola, this Norwegian zombie film took a familiar horror setup, a group of friends heading to a remote cabin in the snowy mountains, and twisted it into something entirely different, something darkly humorous, wildly gory, and unforgettable. It wasn't just another zombie flick, it was a fresh take that dared to ask what would happen if the undead weren't just flesh-eating monsters, but undead Nazis buried in the snow, waiting for revenge. The film combined traditional horror elements with absurd, over-the-top moments that turned it into a thrilling and entertaining ride from start to finish. The story begins with a group of medical students heading out for a fun weekend in the snowy Norwegian mountains, far away from civilization. They're there to relax, ski, drink, and escape their busy lives. But the isolation of the setting creates an eerie tension right from the beginning. The snow-covered mountains and the wooden cabin evoke the feeling of classic horror, reminiscent of films like Evil Dead or The Thing. Everything seems normal until the group discovers a mysterious box of gold and valuables hidden under the cabin. The discovery brings excitement at first, but soon it becomes clear that the treasure has a dark history. It belonged to a group of Nazi soldiers who occupied the area during World War II and met a grisly end. The gold serves as a curse, awakening the frozen remains of the soldiers who rise from their icy graves to reclaim what was once theirs. What follows is chaos, as the peaceful mountain retreat turns into a blood-soaked battlefield between the living and the undead. One of the most remarkable things about Dead Snow is how it balances its tones. The film manages to be genuinely terrifying while also being ridiculously funny. It plays with the conventions of zombie horror, but never takes itself too seriously. The characters are self-aware, often making jokes that highlight how absurd their situation has become. The humor comes not from parody, but from the characters' realistic reactions to an unreal situation. The director uses timing and exaggeration to turn even the most gruesome scenes into moments of twisted comedy. The blend of over-the-top gore and ridiculous bravery gives the movie a unique charm that sets it apart from typical zombie films. Every decapitation, chainsaw battle, and avalanche of blood is handled with both precision and absurdity, making it a visual spectacle for horror fans. The snowy setting plays a major role in making the film feel fresh. Instead of the usual grimy post-apocalyptic cities or forests that zombie films often use, Dead Snow takes place in a bright white landscape. The contrast between the clean snow and the dark red of spilled blood gives the film a striking visual identity. The silence of the mountains adds to the suspense, creating moments where the only sounds are footsteps crunching in the snow or distant screams echoing through the cold. The cold isolation becomes almost a character itself, trapping the group and forcing them to face the horror head-on, with no way to escape. It's this mixture of beauty and terror that gives Dead Snow its haunting atmosphere. Performance-wise, the cast delivers a surprisingly strong mix of humor and panic. Each character has their own personality, ranging from the cautious leader to the overconfident Joker, and their interactions keep the story engaging even before the horror fully kicks in. Once the zombies arrive, the actors commit completely to the madness, delivering performances that feel both believable and exaggerated in all the right ways. Their fear feels real, but their reactions often border on comedic hysteria, perfectly fitting the movie's tone. What's most impressive is how they handle the physical side of their roles, with plenty of intense action, stunts, and practical gore effects that look shockingly realistic. Speaking of gore, Dead Snow doesn't hold back. In fact, it celebrates it. The film's special effects are proudly practical, using fake blood, prosthetics, and makeup to create some of the most outrageous kills in horror cinema. From chainsaw battles to hand-to-hand combat with undead soldiers, every moment is designed to push the limits of absurdity while still delivering shocking realism. The attention to detail in the makeup and effects gives the zombies a grotesque, frozen look that adds to their terror. The way the film embraces its gore, not as a cheap scare tactic, but as an art form, is part of what makes it so beloved by horror enthusiasts. Dead Snow also carries an undercurrent of clever symbolism. On the surface, it's a wild horror comedy about Nazi zombies, but beneath the blood and snow lies a story about history that refuses to die. The Nazi soldiers, frozen in time and buried beneath the snow, represent an evil that never truly went away, an idea that resonates beyond the film's campy exterior. The way the story blends dark history with supernatural horror adds a layer of depth that gives it more staying power than many of its genre peers. It's both a commentary on how the past continues to haunt us and a playful exaggeration of that concept through the lens of zombie mayhem. The pacing of the film keeps things consistently engaging. It starts slow, building the atmosphere and tension through character moments and eerie foreshadowing. But once the zombies emerge, the film shifts gears into full-blown chaos. The action sequences are fast, bloody, and inventive, each one more outrageous than the last. The way the film escalates its violence and absurdity makes it feel like a roller coaster that just keeps climbing higher. The final act in particular is a non-stop blend of horror and comedy that leaves audiences both laughing and gasping. It's the kind of ending that feels perfectly in tune with the movie's wild spirit, messy, fearless, and unforgettable. Over time, Dead Snow gained a strong cult following around the world. Its mix of languages, styles, and tones made it appealing beyond Norway, proving that great horror can cross borders without losing its charm. Fans praised it for its creativity, energy, and willingness to take risks. It also inspired discussions about how horror can be both funny and meaningful at the same time. The film's success eventually led to a sequel, continuing the story with even more action and larger-scale insanity. But it's the original 2009 film that stands as a landmark for a horror comedy done right, a movie that dared to be ridiculous yet smart, gory yet stylish, horrifying yet hilarious. The cinematography deserves special mention as well. The camera work captures both the beauty of the landscape and the horror of the violence in equal measure. Wide shots of the snowy mountains create a sense of grandeur and isolation, while the close-up shots during fight scenes pull viewers directly into the chaos. The lighting, the framing, and the use of natural surroundings all add to the immersive experience. Even when the blood starts flying, the film maintains a sense of visual clarity and artistic intent. It's not just horror for shock value, it's horror presented with style. Another reason Dead Snow stands out is how it celebrates the legacy of classic horror while still feeling original. You can see the influence of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead in its cabin setting and slapstick violence, but the film never feels like a copy. It uses those inspirations as a foundation to build something distinctly Scandinavian, something that embraces its snowy setting and cultural quirks. The soundtrack, sound design, and pacing all reflect that balance between tradition and innovation. Every scream, laugh, and squelch of blood feels perfectly timed to keep viewers entertained and unsettled at the same time. Looking back, Dead Snow's impact on modern horror is undeniable. It opened a door for more creative international horror films that mixed genres freely. It showed that horror didn't have to be serious to be effective. It could be fun, fast-paced, and fearless, while still delivering genuine scares. It also reminded audiences that practical effects and clever writing can outshine even the biggest CGI budgets when done with passion and creativity. The film proved that with the right blend of humor, horror, and heart, even a story about Nazi zombies could become something surprisingly unforgettable. Even years after its release, Dead Snow remains a favorite for fans who love horror with a sense of humor. It's the kind of film that's best enjoyed with friends, late at night when you're ready for something outrageous, thrilling, and completely over the top. It continues to be celebrated at festivals, horror marathons, and fan conventions, where it's remembered not just for its shocking gore, but for its creativity and wit. The film stands as a testament to how bold storytelling and fearless direction can turn a simple idea into a cult classic. In the end, Dead Snow is more than just a zombie movie, it's an experience. It captures the thrill of classic horror while reinventing it with a uniquely absurd twist. Its combination of fear, laughter, and adrenaline creates a viewing experience that's as chilling as the snowy landscape it's set in. The blood-soaked snow, the cursed gold, and the undead soldiers all come together to form a story that's both horrifying and hilarious in equal measure. It's a movie that doesn't just entertain, it shocks, amuses, and stays in your memory long after the credits roll. Dead Snow proves that even in the most frozen corners of the world, horror can find new ways to rise from the grave.